You are listening to Level Up Your Gaming Podcast, episode 42, Rules, Lawyers, and Order in the Court. Today we talk about rules, lawyers, and how to handle them. We discuss when a rules lawyer can be your best friend in a game. We also discuss how to handle your rules lawyers when they start mucking up your scene. If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me via Zoom, he is the judge, jury, and executioner at his table, Jared.
Hey, everyone. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Not bad. Traveling again.
Where do you join us from this week, Jared, with your magical traveling job?
You know, on the job description, it said only 25%. I'm in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. So I'm in actual Washington, D.C., as if you talk to anybody who lives here, there are two Washington, D.C.s. There's the Beltway, and then there's Washington, D.C. I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm not in the like the capitals area or anything like that, or the capital area. I'm kind of like in one of the business districts, so it's so I haven't got to see any monuments or anything like that. I actually went to the roof of my hotel. My roof has a penthouse, like a penthouse roof, and I went up there to see what I could see, and I can't see
anything.
I can see the Capitol Rotunda
Got
and
it.
the George Washington Monument. That's it. That's all I can see from where I am. Everything else is covered up by buildings. So it's it's an experience. Haven't been here since I was like a kid. But yeah, I'm here working, so there's no fun. there's
no fun. And we're gaming tonight, so that's
I'm so looking forward to it.
No sightseeing for you. There's something actually I wanted to bring up with the gaming point. We talked about in a previous episode, when your players are lost or that your players are going to get lost. Last week, you definitely had us in one of those conundrums where we were totally missed something that you obviously threw out there in the first game session. Yes. And we just totally ignored it. We were like, oh, that means nothing. And then you eventually had to circle back and give it back to us like, guys.
So I didn't have to circle back. It was something that particular NPC knew, and it was something that NPC I had already planned. He is a skeptic. He's the down with the party. He's always like, this is never going to work. This is never going to work. That's never going to work.
But it was just funny when you gave us when you flat out told us that, and we went, huh. We totally ignored that fact that you gave us game session 1. Like, you openly told us this guy was killed. And we're just like, eh.
So to give the listeners a little context, pretty much what happened was right now they're investigating the death of a dwarf king. They've been hired. Yes, this is the modern times. There's a hidden dwarf village near Nimrod, Oregon. That's the hidden dwarf village. But everyone has said that the king had been poisoned. And in the very first game, they'd asked, had anybody else been killed? And he responded, yes, the guard. And
you didn't tell us how the guard was killed. But we never asked how he was killed. And then we find out in this last session when we're strong-arming this dwarf effectively and pissing him off.
And you interrogated him.
Yeah, we interrogated him, and he eventually broke, and he said, like, because if you were going to use poison, why would you put 3 arrows in the guard? And we're like, huh. Great point.
This is after you had examined the body of the king, collected samples of his blood, brought it to an apothecary to look for toxins. Yeah, and it just goes to show, as we talked about in a previous podcast, your players will miss huge signs.
You're going to throw them softballs, and they're going to just whiff on them.
Whiff. And I mean, they could have thrown poison out 2 sessions, probably in the first session, because they'd asked how the guard died, and they were like, "Well, he got 3 arrows in the face." I would have been like, "Well, clearly poison is not probably used." Because why would you shoot the guard and then poison the king? They don't. And if you can figure that out, you're onto our mystery. Don't we have, Aaron, where's the
hold on, let me see if this is it.
There we go. You're onto our mystery. So, where's the button?
Where's the sound effect? I need more.
we got this beautiful toy, and
I need more trombone. Where's the trombone?
Give yourself a trombone.
Oh, oops, that's at it.
Thank you. You deserve all of that.
That was how we felt when you threw out that very obvious fact. But
it just goes to show that it is really quite critical to make sure that you have evidence in multiple places, multiple ways to find it, and sometimes when your players are kind of at a dead end, maybe smack them back in the face with it, like have a dwarf scream it at them. That's what I had. I had a dwarf scream it at them.
Yeah, so I mean,
why would you kill the guard?
It just goes to show that even after 20 plus years of gaming with Jared, we still miss things all the time. Like it happens to the best of us, it happens to the worst of us, and it happens to everyone. So.
So, what's our topic? What's our topic today?
Oh, yeah. Well, so I'll actually tell you about our topic. If you couldn't figure it out from the beginning there, we're going to be talking about rules lawyers at your table and maintaining order in the court.
Okay. I have to start off with a statement. I would like to address the court, if I may.
The court recognizes the Honorable Jared.
Thank you. I know a lot of you are out of pocket. God knows that I, in my younger days, out of pocket, would just say, "I'm God. I'm the GM. It stands for God mode, and what I say goes." We're talking about leveling up your gaming. Talking about leveling up your storytelling. That is a method. It's not a great method, though, because this is one of your players. And essentially taking his concern, taking what he wants to bring up, and just shutting it down in a brash kind of, because I've seen it. I think I'm pretty sure I've done it, where I'm just like, well, I'm making this call, TFB, which for our listeners means too fucking bad.
Well, I mean, at some point, you have to kind of do that. Again, remember that you
have to.
You are the final authority at the table.
Yes, and there are just some better ways to handle that, because that's too easy. It's too easy. It can bring up negative feelings. You're not really addressing the behavior. And for people who typically do that, they might be clearly in the wrong against the rules. And that isn't the subtle cheating that a storyteller needs to do. Storyteller needs to do subtle cheating. It can't be outright violations, because then essentially what's the point of playing the game? Just tell us what you're going to have do to us. That's why my players don't know when I'm cheating and when I'm not. Last week, they interrogated a dwarf, and I didn't cheat on a single roll. I let the dice fall where they may. I was like, all right, if they're going to break them, they're going to break them. If they don't, they don't. And they did, and it was a great scene. So handling rules lawyers. So one of the things that you're first going to make sure, if you've got a rules lawyer at the table, a rules lawyer is that individual who always has the book, might have read the book cover to cover, has bookmarks that are in the rules section rather than like in character creation or monsters and blah, blah.
He's ready to spar with you about every little detail you get.
Every detail. And he'll throw the just bam. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. No, that's not how it works. The first thing that I would totally recommend doing is speaking with that player about how you understand and you hear him, and those are the rules, and he can guide you on some certain things. You might actually ask for him, like, hey, Aaron, what's the rule on ice walls again? Using them like a reference manual sometimes helps them fulfill whatever motivation or drive is behind that.
They're very much double-edged sword. They can be your best friend or they can be your worst enemy.
They can. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think I've ever read a role-playing book cover to cover ever. I don't have that much of an attention span.
You read a lot of them. You read most of the background stuff.
I will read the background stuff. I will read the storytelling stuff. I will read, White Wolf chapter, I think it's like almost always 7. Storytelling.
To give you a biblical reference, reading the rules like reading Leviticus. I mean,
yeah, there you go.
Or the Book of Numbers.
One must clean thyself outside of camp for 3 days until purified. So there's one, you do always want to be equipped as a storyteller yourself in the rules and be knowledgeable of them. The rules lawyer, though, as a player, is busy. You're never going to outpace him when it comes to the rules, unless he's not somebody who uses the book and just thinks that he knows the rules. Then you can outpace him by like, dude, I know the rules. I know the rules. But if he's sitting there with a book and he references it, and I've seen it, my God, I hate it. You're never going to beat him. You're never ever going to beat him because he's got the book in front of him, and the book is the rules. But the first thing is I like to use rules lawyers nowadays as my reference guide, because honestly, I'm busy storytelling. I don't have time to look up rules. I ain't got time for that. I gotta handle music. I gotta handle mood. I got players with problems. I got a story to move forward. So the rules lawyer, sometimes using that technique, I have found it pretty awesome when you can just be like, hey, what's the rule on climbing ice walls? Because I've come up with the scene. A lot of times when I develop scenes, I actually will read the rules. Like, for example, if I know that I want my players to climb an ice wall, I don't know, I'm going Game of Thrones. So, sorry. I'm going Game of Thrones right now. So if I know that scene's coming up in my maintenance period, I'm going to look up the rules for climbing. Okay. I'm going to make modifications based on, whatever, because let's be honest. Okay, probably Dungeons and Dragons has rules literally on how to climb an ice wall. White Wolf does not. It has a climbing rule. I don't even think it addresses what if you have rope and
we don't have as many rules as the Dungeons and Dragons.
No, it is lacking in there, and that's kind of to a White Wolf person's advantage.
It's good and it's bad.
It is, because like sometimes you're like, damn, I really want this scene. I want to explore famine and my players being hungry, and you can't. You can't, because there's just you can make up rules. And that always defeats the rules lawyer, like, because they'll be flipping through the book looking for famine, and they'll be like, where is famine? It's like there is no rule on famine in White Wolf. I'm sorry, like there's no rule on dehydration. D&D, you guys don't have that because they do have rules for everything. They have rules for you're walking through the desert. What's the random hit of a comet? Just
maybe not that specific, but you get the point.
I swear. Like the random table of like you get smacked by Haley's Comet, it just gacks you. They have rules for everything. God bless them. I think it's awesome. I would love to have rules for nailing somebody with an astro.
There's a good balance to having a bunch of rules, because at some point the problem is if you don't equally apply your rules. This is what drives rules lawyers mad, is that if you don't equally apply the rules situation to situation, they're like, that's not how you did it before. That's not how it's done.
Oh,
that's not,
God,
it'll drive them nuts. And if there's something that's similar enough to what you're trying to do, the rules lawyer will look at that and go, well, this is the rule for this, so clearly your rule is insufficient or wrong.
Yeah. So the great thing is when you are coming up with those custom rules and somebody says, well, it's more close to this one. One thing that I think a lot of people with rules lawyers, they're a member of your team, they're a friend of yours, and but it's one of those annoying things that a lot of GMs just kind of brush off. They're finding a way to avoid it instead of actually listening, because it interrupts the flow of your story. But there's nothing wrong with saying, like, let me get to the rules. We'll be with the rules in a minute, but I just want to make this scene. And then actually listening to them, because they might actually come up with a valid point. Like, Jared, this is more related to this than it is this. And you might like that rule set more. There's nothing wrong with listening to them. My typical response to rules lawyers in the past have been, all right, yeah, but for now we're going to stick to this. For now we're going to stick to that. Because I dealt with them. I dealt with them at LARP all the time. Everybody at LARP was a goddamn rules lawyer because the book could fit in your fucking pocket. So they were just like, hold on, let me get out my paper-clipped bookmark when engaging in this task. And it was like, oh my God, please stop. But the one thing about the rules lawyer, if you are going to use them as a reference guide, or if you are actually going to listen to them, they cannot interrupt the flow of your story. They can't interrupt the flow of the scene. If you're making a mass combat and they keep on bringing up stuff, you can always say, hey, we can discuss the pertinent rules later. We can discuss them in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, make an appointment tomorrow. But right now, I want to do this scene. And the rules lawyer, I'm going to take that back a little bit. I'm going to take it back. Acknowledge. The first step is to acknowledge that I hear you. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. Because that's one of the big things about the rules lawyers. They want to be heard. You know what I mean? They want their voice to be heard. They want agency in it. I mean, that's the whole goal, is to get things moving in their direction. But even when the chips are down sometimes, or even when the chips are up, the rules lawyer will still continuously battle you on something completely mundane and pointless. Like, actually, no, you have to make a driving roll while driving through the normal city streets. Dude, I'm not making them do that. But you made me do that roll when it was raining out. Well, yeah, because I wanted you guys to get into a car accident. Sometimes you have to explain to them why the rules change. The rules change because I want you to do a particular thing so you have a cool and fun time. I made you roll your driving roll on that rainy day because I wanted to hit you with the semi-truck and take off the front end of the engine and show you just how scary the world is. That's why I did it. Oh. Yes, you're seeing behind the cloak now. This is called storytelling. Sometimes we do things at point A to get to point B, and there's nothing wrong. Like we've told many of you, our listeners, share this podcast with your team. Let them behind the curtain a little bit. Yeah, this is what it takes. Sometimes I will make up funny rules. Sometimes I will bend the rules, break the rules, do all of these things. So you are going to have a good time. So you're not sitting around going, well, we're driving from Iowa to Illinois, and I just go, well, nothing happens. I don't want that scene. I mean, otherwise, I'm going to do a break scene. All right, everyone go to the bathroom when you come back. Welcome to Iowa. You pull into Chicago, and then a truck hits you. It's I do these things for your entertainment. I don't do them to be malicious or cruel because I can always win the game. I could character wipe at any time. If I wanted to murk you all, it would be done.
It'd be easy. I mean, you can 50 ninjas, boom, here they
50
are.
ninjas. A Klingon, a fleet of Klingon birds of prey pop out of warp and just start blowing you away. Borg cube, 3 of them, 3 Borg cubes, boom, you're done. You're done. Can't outrun them. Can't modulate your shields that many times. So I have noticed that sometimes, and this is kind of like a warning from my own personal experience, 20 years of plus gaming. Actually, it was kind of funny. I think I did the calculation. It's like 28 years gaming because we started in 1992.
Wow, really? We started that young? Okay.
I started that young.
Okay.
that was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1992.
Okay.
So, 28 years of gaming, which means, by the way, doing more math, it means I started gaming when I was 7 years old. 7 years old. I am 35.
You're almost at the 3-decade mark. I'll give you a pin when you turn 37.
It's better than my company. My company, I think, at 20 plus years gives you a keychain.
Hey, it's a pretty nice keychain.
Hey, it's a keychain. I've worked for the company 20 years and you give me a keychain. Okay. All right. Could we just skip it all? A pat on the back. I'd rather a cake. So actually, it's 10 years. 10 years to get the keychain. But I have, again, from my personal experiences, the one thing that you want to be cautious with, and I don't mean cautious in a negative tonality like it might hurt you. It's actually more for caring for your player. Rules lawyers, a lot of times when you just shut down out of hand, nope, this is the way that it is. GM equals God mode, or get into fights with them every time. Sometimes they will start thinking that you have it out for them if you change the rules in any way, shape, or form. They think you are cheating them specifically. I've seen it happen where a rules lawyer quite literally started thinking that, that person had it out for them. Because every time that they were like, no, it's here in the rules, they just out of pocket was like, nope, go away. God mode. Now, granted, the storyteller was not handling it in what I think was a very effective or efficient manner, because literally it was a LARP storyteller, and LARP storytellers, you get all kinds, and this person would be like,
get a very mixed bag with LARP storytellers.
And I pretty distinctly recall him pretty much saying like, God damn it, I don't give a shit. Get the fuck out of here, bitch. And it was just like, yeah, I think actually he did. I was like, he might have something out for you, actually. Now, granted, he talked that way to everyone. He was a very crass man. But, that's why I'm all about keeping order in the court. And that's why I really liked the subtitle of this, Keeping Order in the Court. Remember, this person is your friend. They're your player. You are bringing entertainment to a group of friends. And if you are finding that internal resentment because they're breaking your flow, they're shattering the suspension of belief or disbelief, suspension of disbelief. Yeah. They're fucking up your feng shui. You gotta have a talk with them. You gotta express that. You gotta tell them like, listen, this is why I get upset, because it's natural. You're trying to tell a story, you're trying to entertain people, and then someone keeps on popping your balloons. You've created this beautiful birthday party, and they just put their hand in your cake. Come on, bro. I made this for you. And so resentment starts to build. And it's very important for storytellers to check themselves. Like, hey, Am I getting pissed off at Duke because he keeps doing this? Do we complain about it every night at the end of the night because Duke leaves early and we all sit around going, holy fuck, Duke. He said page 306 again. Because even your players are probably, you got your players that are like, man, I love a good story. They'll sit there and they know that you cheat and they fucking love that you cheat because you make awesome stories that they get to participate in. And they've gotten to build their characters up in such a way that they love playing their characters. It's, and they're going to get angry. They're going to get upset because they're in the flow. They're like, oh my God, this thing's coming for us. And then he breaks out, well, my movement is actually 4 and Tom's is 5 and Jason's is 17. That monster can't outrun Jason. Yeah. Okay, that is true. Yes.
It's like we get it. But again, Jared's right. Your players do start noticing it. And it gets even more amplified when you have 2 rules lawyers. So now you've got competing rules lawyers in the group.
Oh, God. You've got 2. Put them on opposite sides of the table.
We've had this before, and boy, oh boy, I mean, it is a fiasco and a half. Back in the day, we used to have at least 2. It was you,
Steve was
Steve.
A rules lawyer.
Steve was a rules lawyer. God, I want to say we had another one. So so whenever you 2 were playing in a game together, that was chaos. Okay, yeah. And whenever you want to use storytelling for the other one, that was equal chaos because you're both rules lawyers.
And that's where I talk about the resentment. I mean, like, I started to resent Steve because he did that. I really started to resent him. And I can't say that I ever acted out of action or anger with him. Like, I never fucked him over because he was pissing me off. Because deep down, he was still my friend. But man, I remember some nights I'd get so pissed at him. He'd make me want to tear my hair out.
There would be heated arguments that took a scene that should have probably taken, 10 minutes to execute, would have taken close to an hour to get through because of just minute details.
He should have stayed around longer because now I don't have hair to pull out. I miss hair. I want hair back. Sorry. The whole digital medium, like I'm observing myself and I'm like, oh my God, I need to get this beard trimmed because right now it's wild. And I have no hair. But no, the rules lawyer, you have to check your own emotional state, the emotional state of your players. And it really does start. Sometimes, you can turn them into the reference guide and it really does work. Be like, hey, tell me the rule on this. Becoming more educated yourself on the rules or writing down rules that you know are going to be subject is a way, but it doesn't stop the behavior. In the end, the goal is to either A, get them to work with you, or B, to get them to stop the behavior, because the behavior doesn't help the game. There is nothing about rules lawyering that is going to increase your story or increase the fun, unless you have a table full of rules lawyers, and that's what they like to do.
Yeah, unless you enjoy getting together and being like, no, fall damage is 10 times the...
I mean, I'm sure there are gaming groups out there that they just love to bicker and argue like they're in the court. No, they have grayish green skin. What version are you on? 3.5.
And the DM's like, all right, we're gonna take a 20-minute recess for lunch.
We're gonna take hit the gavel. I'm sure there are gaming groups out there that really actually do get a kick out of that. That's their way of having fun, and God bless them. God bless them. But if you have any other player in there, they are bored out of their minds, and they're hurting. They're hurting for certain. So the rules lawyer, again, it's either get them on your side, make them that reference guide, or you have to stop the behavior. And a lot of times that's talk. A lot of times that is an open and honest conversation of like, hey, yada yada. A lot of times it's we're going to table your bring up, for a later time. The thing is not to engage in the argument right then and there, because it's going to destroy what you're trying to build.
Jared mentioned it. You don't want to ruin the flow of your game. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to tell the story, and if you're in a really epic combat scene, things like rules lawyers, and all those things, they start to bog down the tension that you're trying to build in a scene. And if you just have a person where every turn he's like, well, wait, can't I do this? Or, well, the rules tell me I can do this. Those things make for a very...
Just one, see, it's interruptions like this that fuck up your story. And two, these headphones, not very good at sound canceling because I can hear the police outside of my hotel room.
Oh,
I hear the radios going off.
I don't hear them, but thanks for letting us know.
Not knocking on my door, so I don't care. I think they're here from my neighbors.
Well, you can let me know how that plays out later.
I kept hearing beeping, and I'm like, are my headphones dying? But continue. But
yeah, no. So I mean, again, it just messes up the flow. If every turn you're trying to, we spoke about this in the tactical game. Every turn you're trying to determine whether or not this person's in 50% cover or this person's in a flanked position, and you can't figure out these rules during it. It bogs down a scene. It becomes extremely boring for what you're trying to do. It's more like you're trying to read an encyclopedia than it is that you're trying to play this epic game and try to do these epic things. And Jared's right. You're going to bend rules to make scenes happen. Okay, Jared brought this up.
I'm going to flat out break them to make scenes happen.
Jared brought this up with driving. So why do you make somebody roll to drive the car in an epic chase scene? Well, you sometimes want them to crash the car in the epic chase scene to make the scene more epic.
That's what I'm shooting for. I want them to crash it a couple of times.
And maybe if a failed roll does not result in a crashed car, you might crash the car because you want the scene to go that way, and you want to build this tension for it. And your rules lawyer is going to go, well, technically we have 3 more saves before we actually crash the car, and you're going to go, George, damn it, George. Like, every time.
That input, that cars. Because my thing is don't let it interrupt. Aaron brings up a really good point. Don't let it interrupt another player's scene, because the driver is the one who's having the fun. And it's also, the trunk monkey who's shooting out the back of the car. They're the ones, this is their spotlight moments. And the navigator has a little bit of stuff in there, and then you got the rules layer in the rear passenger seat who doesn't have anything to do right now, and so the rules lawyering you. My thing is, I look at the person I'm talking to. So you got your rules lawyer, and he goes, well, technically, because of his daredevil ability, blah 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 blah. How I'm going to handle that situation? Thank you. Heard. Look to my driver. Do you want to use your daredevil ability? Nah, I'm going to crash the car. All right, let's crash that car. That wheel is fucked up. I'm going to save my daredevil. Because, again, your players want to build the stories just as much as you do. Trust me, you give them an opportunity to crash the car a little bit, they might look at you and go, is it going to really fuck up my car? It's going to still be drivable. Let's crash the car. Awesome. Let's crash that car. Let's fuck it up a little bit. Because what's more fun? The high-speed pursuit. I mean, okay, yeah, there's the Italian Job, where they're not a dink is in the car. I watched that car scene, I'm like, okay, cool. You got a driver on a course who does really well at driving and can pull some cool stunts. But then you have the Jason Bourne chase, where he keeps slamming into shit. Awesome. Because I'm seeing mufflers going off, I'm watching fenders coming off. Which one is the more exciting? Which one is the more exciting for your players? Because if your players are going, the Italian Job chase was way better. Awesome. Make the Italian Job chase. Know your players, KYP. Exactly. Make that Italian Job. But if your players are like, fuck no, Demolition Derby is way better than a NASCAR race. The Demolition Derby up. Make them Gravedigger. Have them run over the fire hydrant and your rules lawyer go, well, technically you have the velocity to get through that water. Don't let them interrupt the scene. Don't let them interrupt the scene. Acknowledge them. Thank you. I understand. But for right now, they're coming through. And that's why I think one of the largest tools in your toolbox. Oh man, this is going to be a shameless plug. I am so sorry, audience, for this already. That's why the best tool in your toolbox is to hand them this podcast. Perhaps give them the episode on where I completely admit I cheat all the time, but I cheat for your benefit. Yes, hand this podcast to your friends. Smash that like button.
I was going to bring up one more point, but I'm not going to now. Let's get.
Oh, bring up the point.
I'll shut up. My final point to this, and Jared said, don't do it at the beginning of the game. If your rules lawyer is just incapable of hearing the acknowledgement and moving on, you still are the GM. Okay, Just say, listen, we'll talk about this later, but for right now, what I say goes. Okay, you can have a conversation after the game session, but if he is incapable of hearing anything other than that's just not how it works. That's just not how it works. And this works this way, and this works this way.
Now you gave me an idea. I got to talk about one more point.
Okay, all right. But you have to at some point usually stop your player and say, "Listen, I am the GM. You are the final authority at the table. So if he's incapable of hearing your acknowledgement, then you need to stop and say, listen, we'll talk about that, but for right now, my rules go for this scene."
So one of the things, as most of our listeners know, I used to work in a school for violent youth offenders. I loved teaching those kids, and it was a great passion of mine. One of the things you as a teacher, you have to tell kids bad stuff. You have to tell them that they have to sit down. You have to tell them that they have to read that, and they have to do their worksheet. And sometimes you have to put on the voice, the teacher voice. Do the worksheet. Put down your pencil. Stop stabbing Billy, as was more my school. Stabbing with a pencil or pen or any other sharp object was not uncommon where I worked. Scissors were locked up. The thing is that one of my tips, and this is a tip for life. I do this all the time, actually, at work. Now, even in the business world, if I need someone to do something, and I know it's going to be painful, they might go, "Oh man, that asshole." I love to give people compliments right before I drop the hammer. You're fantastic. You're wonderful. You're amazing. Please get to fucking work. You're wonderful. You are just an amazing worker. You are a wonderful dad, from what I hear. Write the fucking thing. So when your rules lawyer interrupts your scene, Aaron, you're handsome, you're a smooth talker, and you have great fashion sense. But please, for the love of God, close the book. Injecting humor into constructive criticism is always a good idea. Or lightening the blow. Just please close the book. You're not telling them to stop rules lawyering you. You're not telling them you're not being like, shut the fuck up, go away, bitch. Shut the fuck up. Because that's what a lot of people run to. They run to shut the fuck up. Their anger gets the best of them. Take a deep breath. Compliment them 3 times. Compliment them 2 times. Compliment them once. Aaron, love the haircut. Put down the book. It works. It's actually a very effective tool. I'm telling you, it worked for kids with felony records and not having them stab me. Okay, I think it can work for your rules lawyer.
That's some good advice right there. Some sound advice. You ought to
smash that like button.
You got anything else you want to talk about, Jared?
No, I'm good. I hope everyone enjoyed the episode.
All right. Well, if you do like this podcast, go ahead and suggest it to a friend. Give it to your gaming group. Jared's got a really good point. Give it to your gaming group for this episode and the other episodes, so you can hear kind of behind the curtain what's kind of going on. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're not comfortable enough to give everyone all of your tricks, but if they hear some of ours, they'd be more comfortable with the tricks. So
there's a subtle way of telling your rule slayer to stop. Just slide them this episode.
Hey, Tom, I want you to listen to this episode of this podcast. I think you will find it quite informative.
You're fantastic. Listen to this episode.
But go ahead and share with a friend, share with your gaming group, share with other gaming groups that you know, or go ahead and review us on your favorite podcast site. You can follow us on facebook.com/levelupyourgaming or reach out to us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com. We're always looking for suggestions for episode topics. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. We've answered some in the past.
We love it.
Yeah,
we love it.
It's great. We'd love to answer more of them. So, but that's going to wrap it up for us. For Jared, I'm Aaron. Have a good week, guys.
Have a great week, everyone.